Thank you.
Good. Okay, next we have discussion of requests for temporary signage in city right-of-way for various events held at the historic train depot, which we did receive emails about this previous to this agenda item, so.
For the record, Terry Tubbs, zoning official. Staff recently became aware that a single small sign had been placed out in the right-of-way for one of the Saturday events at the historic depot. In this particular instance, no permits had been requested or issued for it. The code requires permits for off-premises signs for any event, and we have them for the farmer's market. You've got the gallery walk, other special events. That is, for the ones that are not ongoing, it's a $25 application fee for a special event. Usually that occurs when somebody's having an annual, just once a year, so they'll apply for that type of a permit. It's specific to the locations of the signs, and it allows up to 8 off-premises signs, directional signs and informational signs. For the farmer's market, that permit was a temporary conditional use permit that allowed the signs as part of the permit. They're allowed to be put up 24 hours prior to the event and are removed immediately after the event. The business events, the no-charge permits that allow business event signage, temporary signage, or even portable signage, requires the sign to be within 20 feet of the building. So I went out and measured 20 feet from the building and put the sign that you really can't read. And it's at the back of like that planter area. That's where you hit the 20 feet. By the time you get out even close to the property line, you're out 50, 60 feet from the building. So, and on top of that, the actual events are held at the back of the building. So a person driving down the road, although the building is very visible from all of the intersections there, somebody driving down the road is not likely to be aware that something is going on at the back. So we absolutely understand the issue. As Ms. Campbell had stated earlier, they don't charge their vendors setup fees as, like the farmer's market do. And so for the temporary conditional use permit, that's a $250 application fee. We only have 2 categories, commercial and residential. We don't have a not-for-profit category where it would be a reduced fee or anything like that. Staff doesn't have authority to reduce or waive fees or go outside of what's literally written in the code. So we wanted to bring this as a discussion item to see what we can do to assist the train depot with their various events. I mean, they, great for the community and everything. We just need an avenue.
I mean, if they, obviously you said in your paperwork that a changeable copy sign would be quite expensive. It would be ideal because then they could really state what the activity was. I don't know where they would put it, but I think in lieu of that, an A-frame is really, really compatible with, they're reasonable. You can change, if you get the plastic one, you can change the placard that goes inside of it and just maybe come up with a better area where they could place it, since the 20 feet doesn't work for that location. Because it is a busy intersection, so if staff could come up with a location where they could place an A-frame sign, I would be okay with that.
I would be okay if they had a yard sign, like the farmer's market has the yard sign that they stick in the right-of-way if you're headed 41 north, where it's very visible. I think anything we can do to support the organization, they do so much for our community and they preserve these buildings that are our historic assets, and we don't have to pay for that, so it's something I just feel that we need to, committed to support. So somewhere, if we were to designate, you could put them here, you could put them here, and they need to be professional looking.
Yes,
so we can
professionally
keep
produced is the key issue.
I think so too.
that. I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Ken?
I wouldn't have a problem with it either. I would really like for us to
really consider doing a pro-business signage. I mean, I just really think our signage is very restrictive, and people are constantly coming back to us with this. I don't want signs all over, there's no question about that, but this type of thing, they're having events that are going on. I mean, there has to be a way to come up with something so that they're allowed to have this kind of thing, so people know where they're going. I mean, I almost feel like we're not being pro-events, it's always, we have so many signage things. I mean, it's not a meeting if we're not talking about signs. So, I mean, I think we have to come up with something that works for everyone, that works for the community also.
Well, I think
Not
that's
today.
That's why they're here asking, because the rules that we have in place don't
Right,
work
that's
for
what
this
I mean.
particular situation. And in downtown, we have 0 lot lines, so those businesses are right up next to each other. So we have to have rules for that, we have to amend rules for
Right.
situations like this.
I mean, I had something happen last week with a business owner downtown, and Terry and I think it was Lisa and I talked about it. They just wanted to put on, Hurricane Charlie wanted to put up a banner. Well, they don't have their business license yet because they don't have a CO yet. And so they just wanted to put it up, for the day or whatever. Well, it wasn't allowed. Or have a, like a coming soon type of thing, a coming soon. People are all wondering what's going on. Or having a now hiring. I mean, not a ugly, not a crazy, not handwritten signs, but just these little, I mean, it just shows activity, happening things downtown. I mean, personally, I think that's being pro-business and I don't want, and I don't want, Howard and I talked about it, he said, we thought about that, but then coming soon could turn into 2 years. Well, we know that if you're going to get a CO, within a couple weeks when that CO is going to happen. I mean, maybe it's 30 days, 45 days, you are allowed to put something up. So it kind of creates a buzz and an excitement in the community. Oh, this is happening, instead of hearing through the coconut telegraph it's opening here, it's opening there, and,
So what is the decision with regards to this? Are we looking at just the kind that the farmer's market does? Or are we looking for an A-frame? What are we
I'm okay with either one of those, but I would just like staff to direct them where a decent placement area would be, and not charge them for a permit.
I think we said professional. What kind of sign would you consider being professional? I mean, that's not a banner, I would think, is that?
When we review signs for the off-premises signs, it would be one that have the vinyl letters attached by, it can be the corrugated board like the Gallery Walk and
Yes.
some of the ones the farmer's market
That's okay.
uses, that stick in ground, because those letters can be, they're just vinyl letters that are basically pressed onto the board. Some, it varies. There would be the opportunity, when we talk about the portable signs, those various A-frame signs, you have options for the ones with the zip channel letters, where the letters can be, individually put on. Some of the businesses have chosen to use a chalkboard, where they just write whatever the message is for the day. The issue with the portable signs, again, was distance from the building, so I would need special council approval to allow the sign to be further from the building than the code allows. And it's one of those situations where this particular building, it's situated back so far, and you've got the railroad right of way, just doesn't lend itself for sharing information very much.
I'm fine with the special consideration for that. It's a historic site, and if we have an opportunity to show it off, we should do it.
Howard?
Can we treat them like we're treating the downtown farmers market and the History Park farmers market? Because they seem to be having recurring events week after week after week, just like those two farmer market. Is that sufficient enough for us to manage them if council says okay?
As long as their council approves no fee for that, yes.
Do we have to enact a special historic train depot overlay to accomplish this? Just kidding. I say no permit, and be flexible and come up with a mutually agreeable location for whatever these professional signs that they
Absolutely.
I agree.
choose.
Agree.
Agree.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, next we have recommendation from city officers. Howard.
We're trying to get on the September 3rd council meeting 2 items. One, you hopefully will be doing the interviews of the 3 lobbyist finalists right at the council meeting. Half hour each, no more than 30 minutes each. And then you can select, rank them and select who you
So
want.
bring lunch.
No, just not really.
Okay.
So far, not really anyways. We haven't assembled the agenda yet, but it looks okay.
Okay.
And then the other item we'll have on is the evaluation of the FY 2015 strategic plan action items. I sent that out weeks and weeks ago. We're finalizing it. We're not redoing the whole strategic plan. It's just the action items to coincide with the budget that will be having a public hearing that night.
In a public hearing that evening.
So it's not that if we see an item that we missed, that we should be sending in a notification to you. I think we missed this, let's add it on, is it? We can do that.
Well, people are doing it as we speak, although they're slow to come now. There was a flurry at first, and now I'm not getting any more input, so we're just assembling the final. It's just a draft. We can amend it at that time. That's it.
City attorney.
I'd like to return briefly to the variance that you approved today. Unless the city council directs otherwise, I would not take your action as precluding the city staff from initiating a code enforcement action against the property owner and contractor for constructing the structure without obtaining a permit from the city, nor appropriate action through the building board with respect to the contractor for doing the same activity.
What does that mean?
Well, that means that unless you direct otherwise, you've granted a variance. That does not preclude, however, the city from seeking enforcement against the contractor and the property owner
And those 2
from
boards?
violating that portion of our ordinance that requires a permit. And because doing the work without a permit under our code is a irreparable incident, the Code Enforcement Board would have the authority to fine the contractor and/or the property owner up to $1,000 up to $5,000 for violating the code. I would hate for anyone outside to get the message that it is okay to do something unlawful first and then come back to the board for permission or forgiveness. And ultimately, it would be the Code Enforcement Board's determination, based on the evidence and testimony presented, whether a fine would be warranted against either the property owner or the contractor, should we go in that direction. But again, the mere fact that you have granted a variance would not insulate them from penalty for proceeding in the fashion that they did, unless you direct otherwise.
I think that's what I was trying to get at before with regards to paying for the permit fee, but I appreciate that.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. City clerk.
Okay, under boards and committees. Under vacancies, we have an unexpired term for a code enforcement board alternate, an unexpired term for a historic preservation advisory board alternate, a 3-year term on the Board of Zoning Appeals, and a 4-year term on the Police Officers Pension Board. Under nominations, we have a 3-year term on the Board of Zoning Appeals. We currently have 2 applicants who are eligible for nomination.
Nominate all.
Thank you. Also under nominations, we have a 3-year term as an alternate on the Historic Preservation Advisory Board. Mr. McDonald is eligible for reappointment. He's our only applicant, so if you would like to nominate and appoint.
Nominate and appoint.
Second.
So we have a motion, a second, to nominate and appoint Mr. McDonald to the HPAB. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Very good, that's all I have.
Thank you. Under policy and legislation, I have 2 things. Firstly, I think we had a successful Florida League of Cities conference last week. We learned a lot. We had a lot of good sessions on technology. They produced this book. Not sure if it's available online yet, but if it becomes available, we can link it to our city's website, maybe under What's New, because it's really a wealth of different technologies and how they fit in with government and what kind of advancements are on the horizon. So it's really well done. We also got to talk a lot with other cities, and it's really interesting to really feel the diversity of what's out there. You know, we're the only city in our county, but, and I didn't know that city of Tallahassee is the only city in, I guess, Leon County it is, so that's kind of unusual too. But they're a large city. Yes, and they have Digitally. They have an app. Which is amazing. We're not quite there yet, and what's happening with our app? No, we're not getting the app. Okay. Well, there are groups out there. This woman that presented, she's the owner of the company. Can't remember what it was called.
Lily Lou is the owner of the company.
Public Stuff.
Okay.
Public Stuff. And Digitally has a really cool app. So if you have time, go look it up and download it on your phone, then delete it. But it's really neat, and it's very customer friendly. It's very citizen oriented. You can report issues, you can report problems, and say you move into a new apartment and you don't know what day your trash collection is on, you just go in there, you put your address in. It may even find you on your phone for all I know, and say, okay, your day is Tuesday and Saturday or whatever. So Digitally app, we learned about that. We had a great presentation by Mr. Bill Strickland, who's done a lot of work up in the Pittsburgh area with poor people, and he was very inspiring. And we met a lot of other council members and mayors, and you know, some of them make $1 a year, and some of them make $50,000 a year. I mean, it's just so the variations are so wide, but it's a really nice time to get to know people, and they're all pretty normal for the most part. So that was really exciting, and I will be joining the Energy and Natural Resource Policy Committee, so we can tell our stories about our struggles with the funding for our RO plant. So that'll be interesting, and coming up, September is the first meeting, so I'll report back after that. The other thing on the horizon is that the police department does such a great job with their promotional items, and we really don't have anything. The city doesn't really have much. We did for the 125th. We had the pins and the shirts and that type of thing, but when Nancy meets the guy from the road tripping show, or people come into town and they want to meet and talk about the city of Punta Gorda, we really don't have anything substantial. We have a pin, you know, a lapel pin. So there are some funds, some marketing funds, very limited, but Michaela and I are going to work on putting a few things together, maybe a little bag and maybe bicycle-oriented type of things. So they'll be available after we decide. We'll let you know what we've picked, and that way, if you have an appointment with somebody or meeting somebody, like whatever the circumstance, like the new show, you could give them something. We put our brochure in there and make it really kind of a neat little package, so they have something. And there were a lot of cool promotional items at the Florida League, too. Those companies do a great job. And Howard and I were taped to be on future episodes of the Comcast Newsmakers. So when we find out when that's edited and produced, we will put that on the website as well. So
Great.
it was pretty neat. It was kind of fun.
Yeah.
It was kind of nerve-wracking and fun at the same time.
We even took a picture of Howard getting makeup.
Yeah, Howard had makeup and powder. So that's all I have. So now council member comments, and we'll start with Nancy.
I agree with you. It was a great meeting. I'm so glad to be back, as I mentioned earlier. Gave me such reaffirmed the perspective of what we've done here in our community. It was a great week, and it just solidified the direction that we have chosen to take, and that we're doing the right thing for our community. That there is so much technology that we can use to further our city, so I'm hopeful that when we get a new IT manager, director, that they can help embrace moving our city forward and using technology to do that. and they can help lead us in that direction. There was an interesting session that I attended on pension reform. It's obviously on the minds of cities all over the state. And it was a great presentation. All these slides will be online. And the attorney that presented it, Howard said he was familiar with. A lot of detail, a lot of great information on what different cities are doing to address pensions and to make pensions sustainable. So that's the issue. It's not a matter of taking things away from people, just trying to make things sustainable, because it's an old paradigm that doesn't seem to be working as well as it was thought to 50 years ago, 100 years, whatever, when all that started. So, but glad to be back.
Thank you, Kim.
I just wanted to know if you would be interested in maybe having an agenda item where we talk about the downtown city center, just the city center area, to be a little bit more pro-business signage, so that we could come up with something so it doesn't have to keep coming to us. I mean, there's a lot of sign.
Issues.
Right, and I think let the chamber, let the downtown businesses talk and see what they would like to have, and maybe work with Terry.
But wouldn't we want to have them have that discussion first?
Sure,
Let them
yes.
see what their issues
Yeah.
are, and then sure.
Well, I'm just asking if you would be willing to
Sure.
let them.
I'm in favor of that, because I know I have received comments from different business owners about signage, and I agree, we don't want to turn this into a sign haven,
Right.
but what is it that we should be thinking about that where we're missing the boat?
Right.
What aren't we?
I mean, I love the idea of the not the flag things, but this, like on the lights. And I know we don't have the stanchions or whatever anymore to be able to hang them, but it would have been so nice to be able to, for Patty when she has her or her Pirates Fest, to hang up her pirate signs. And I'd love to know what the issue is with DOT. I mean, I travel around and I see little cities all over the place hanging up signs across the street that say Pirates Fest, block party. I just don't know why we can't do that. I mean,
That
it's
would
that
be
small town, thing.
Get with Rick Keeney, he could fill you in on DOT and what the
Okay.
rules are, and maybe you could start a discussion with them and find
Okay.
out if there's any flexibility.
Right. I mean, I just think if we come up with, a uniform type of thing, I'm sure the different businesses would be willing to buy their banners or whatever, so it could be consistent, and that every time there was a festival, that's what went up, and it looked the same. And
So what kind of agenda item are you really wanting? Because if we open up the whole city center sign code, that's gonna be dicey.
I think we need dicey, though. I think it's time for dicey. I mean, if we're gonna grow,
I
and
think-
we want, I just think that, I don't know what that means. And I mean, I'm happy to go to meetings with the chambers or the downtown businesses and try to hash it out. I'm happy to go there and participate in that. I just think that, I mean, I get so many comments every week about this and how restrictive we are, and I'm not really sure, you just say, well, that's the rules. I mean, I get to the point where, it's the rules. But if our downtown businesses really don't like it, I mean, and they're not being able to promote their businesses, I mean, I'd just like to see what that is, so.
But I
don't
think
know.
each individual one has their idea of what their
I know.
deal
I
is and
agree.
how they would promote their business, and that's not necessarily the overall flavor of the entire community. And I think too, we've just finally gotten to the point where they're complying with
Right.
everything that we've put in place. So, I mean, if you have something certain, like the banner stanchions and something like that, I would definitely look at that, but I think to open up the whole entire sign code
Okay.
conversation is gonna be,
Too much?
for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got a certain look going.
Okay.
Is now the time to
Well, I
change
think
it?
it would add to the look. I think it would be the look that we are doing with the.
I guess I would need examples to understand, because I'm not
Okay.
following.
Okay.
Because they can do banners, but in that instance, the person didn't have the business.
Right. And that's gonna happen too, if we're gonna get new businesses, that's gonna happen a lot. You
So
know?
you're suggesting that we have more flexibility?
Right.
Yes.
Right. I mean, what happens when city marketplaces is being built and people wanna know what's going on and they can't have any signs and, you know, right.
I would just like to see the Chamber of Commerce and the Downtown Merchants Association vet out the whole process before
Bring
they
it
bring it
to
back
us.
to us.
And they have. I mean, every
They have.
time
I
we've
don't know if
gone
in
to
the
change
area-
anything, we get input from them.
Kim, because you're downtown, you may hear of more issues than
Right.
I do, but and if there are, we should certainly speak with them and address them.
Right.
For the record, Terry Tubbs. For a development, actually, the developer can get a temporary pre-development sign that can go up prior to even starting construction. They just have to have their development review plan that's been conceptually approved before the Development Review Committee. So for something like that, they can. Businesses, all they have to do is apply for their local business tax. They don't have to have that issued. They can get grand opening banners up to 60 days prior to them actually opening.
Okay.
So that is already in the code, and it is permitted by right. When we adopted the most recent business event for the no-charge permits, where they can have 12 business events and 12 business promotions per year, that would get them through. All they have to do is apply for the permit. They're allowed to have the signs. Many times they put up signs, they don't want to take them down. We have had businesses that will leave them up 6, 8 months if we aren't on them. And all of those ordinances for the business event signs was vetted through the community, through the citizens, through the Downtown Merchants Association and the Punta Gorda Chamber. We held meetings for over a year, obtaining
Okay.
input to get where we are.
Okay.
Just a few.
Just so you know. So like for Doug and the Turtle Club downtown, what are they allowed to put up while they're renovating, or they can get some type of signage to put up?
For, I don't know
Could they put a
exactly what their
banner?
timeline is or what their plan for permanent signage is. We have discussed a couple of things. But if they wanted to just submit their application for LBT, they aren't going to
Right.
get it but all they have to do is submit it to the city clerk's office.
Right.
They could get a grand opening permit, that opening on October
Okay, so they could have a sign out there.
60 days prior.
Okay, all right.
Did they contact the city?
Yeah,
Okay.
Who knows?
I'm
I mean,
done.
they should know the rules. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
we have other issues with tenants in the Sunloft building. They would like to have signs on the building.
yeah.
Well, now, can you imagine, visualize this. You have a beautiful Sunloft building. You have a marker at the, as you enter the building on the ground floor, signifying all the businesses that are there. Beautiful signage,
But you can't read it unless you're standing there.
unless you're standing there. But people know the Sunloft building. If we allowed all the businesses on the second and third floor to start putting signs on the building on the second and
Right.
third floor, that's what you'd see. Now, is that the look we want?
No,
I had that look in the South Bronx when I left.
yeah, no, we don't want that.
Don't bring it
That-
here,
I mean,
Tom,
No,
please.
no, we
get-
don't want that at all.
We get calls about that, you know,
Right.
so there are things out there, and we have specific regulations to guard against that.
Right.
Well, maybe what we need to do is have a fact sheet. Grand opening, this is what it's, put it all on one piece of paper so that we can digest it and see, and have that information for business
Right.
owners. In
Right.
case there is a miscommunication. Because some of this is in different parts of the code and kind of hard to digest the whole entire thing.
And maybe that's it. Maybe that's what's going on, is that they just don't
Maybe
know,
that's
because
what we
it sound-
need.
From what Terry just said, it sounds like we have it. Really.
We do have a pamphlet.
For each
maybe we need to revamp the pamphlet and look at it and
I need a pamphlet.
We also have a scorecard that Karen developed for businesses when they open it up, evaluating all different functions of how they were treated. Maybe we should put a line item on there for signs. Were they happy with their signage?
No.
I think we know what the response might be.
But I think it's a good point that you raise about businesses may not know, because I've had one in Brent Store Colonial Promenade really ask me, we want to be able to do this and this and this, and I talked with Howard and Terry, and it turns out that most of what they wanted to be able to do, they could do, they just didn't know they could do it.
Right.
In some cases, it was something that they wanted, well, that needed to be worked out with the company that they're renting from. So it's not anything that the city's restricting them for, it's the building owner. So,
And they just don't know.
So it's really sometimes communication.
and if they come from Cape Coral, then they probably have a certain mindset of, oh, this is what
Right.
I may be allowed to do without even finding that out. And we have business owners coming in from out of town and you know, the rules are a little bit different here. And that's what I said earlier, is that in the city center, we have 0 lot lines.
Right.
So these places are right on top of each other, and if we don't, you know, if we don't want to look like other places, then we have to really be careful. I mean, the years I've been here, we've been through, I wouldn't say all, because I'm sure there's more out there that we haven't talked about, but we've talked about it extensively, and the staff has done a good job of getting input. So, anything
Okay.
else?
That's it.
Tom?
Yes, by now, the county commissioners have received the request for in-like funding on the Veterans Memorial. If we haven't already met with our delegated partners, it might be a good time to discuss that with them. I plan to see Ken Doherty next week, and I will bring that up with him
Okay.
as well.
Forget who my counterpart is. I'll have to check.
We'll have to look back.
Mine is running for election, so I'll attempt to.
Great. One of the seminars that I attended at the Florida League of Cities was a conference on climate change. And it was really gratifying for me to hear that Punta Gorda was singled out for its efforts on coastal resilience. So, and I would like to acknowledge all involved in doing that. It was just wonderful to hear that. And I know that, Joan, you're probably going to have something coming up over the next several months. Would you care to share some of that with us now?
The city's starting to revamp the comprehensive plan, so we will be bringing some information on climate adaptation changes that was previously adopted, I believe, in 2009 from the council regarding the City of Punta Gorda's climate adaptation plan. They approved that plan, so we will be pulling the strategies that were approved at that time and implementing them into the policies within the comp plan.
That's great work.
And what about the historic element? Where are we at with that?
That actually will be coming to you next month.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Tom?
No, that's it.
Okay, Carolyn?
Two things. First of all, I also found that the conferences or the meetings that I attended at the League of City Conferences was very good. One in particular, David Knorr, and he's a growth strategist, but he pointed out very specifically that we really need, as cities, a vision for digital strategy and consumer engagement, and some of the things that you were talking about in terms of the apps and what have you. But I think we need to begin as a city and as a city staff, particularly as we get our new IT person on board, is start to develop that strategy. We may not be able to fund a lot of stuff immediately, but we need to have a direction so that we know what we want our city to be able to do. Some of his suggestions is to build a different kind of city. Can't is dead. Will do will kill it. And no is intellectually lazy. So I would hope that we would, again, think about the possibilities. A couple of the other things, it says, what do you need to stop doing? And we might want to look at that in terms of moving from paper, again, to technology and things like that. And I know our staff is already doing that, so we're doing a lot of this already. Think local, but act regionally. And he also, again, one of the things he said, message should have a consistent look and feel, and that's what we're doing with our one community, one message kind of thing. He said to check out the pain points for customers, our residents and businesses, and obviously a pain point has been signage for our businesses. but what are the pain points in terms of people dealing with the city? I think it was, maybe Nancy, you had mentioned that there was a person that came up to you and was not involved in anything, and was here 3 years and didn't know what to get involved in. And I just can't imagine that happening to any resident here in our community. But again, just to take a look at that. But I think there was a lot of good stuff there, but I think if we begin looking at a digital strategy, what is it that we want to be? How do we want to look in the future in terms of our digital capacity?
Yeah, and I don't know if it was Lucy Liu that mentioned it, but it was I believe in that presentation, they mentioned mobile phones, and they talked about that most households have mobile phones, a lot don't have computers, so this is it. And they talked about more homes have mobile phones than they do toothbrushes.
That is amazing.
And today, so that this is where it's at in reaching people.
I heard that. I don't know how you measure that.
I don't know either, but
That was a
you know,
good
and,
one.
and when you look at when we were waiting for Howard and watching him be made up, and I think Rachel, you were waiting there, or maybe you didn't. I don't know if you saw it or not, with the mayor of Tallahassee.
Yes.
And when he had his
Digitally.
Digitally, but he showed us on his phone how he could, they own their own electric utility. And he showed us on his phone his household electric usage that day and what he was paying that day for his electric service. And so he could do things like shut off lights, and he could see how that affected his electric usage by day. And he was so proud of that, and I don't blame him, because it was
was cool.
awesome. So I think those are the kinds of things that it's like helping us stretch beyond what our current thinking is, that could really.
And along that line, the IT director positions come up quite a bit today, and things are changing so fast. And, you know, back when we're talking about switches and backbones and telephone systems, those things are changing so fast. There was a vendor there with the VoIP phones, and you don't buy phones. You lease the equipment, and you pay a charge, and it's all in the cloud. And he showed me his phone, and he went on his app for the voice over internet phone, and it looked like you're dialing on your iPhone, but you're not. All he typed in was the extension, and he called his assistant, and it wasn't going through his phone usage. It was going through his phone at his office. And the technologies are changing so fast, and just like the cloud that they were talking about. I mean, everybody's moving toward the cloud. So if we're not, it's almost like if we're not moving in that direction, we're behind. Because if we start, especially when we start talking about replacing some of our technology infrastructure, I mean, it's happening so fast that all options need to be considered, because it's out there. It really is out there. So I think it was in our face that, you know, if you're not moving forward and you're stagnant, you're actually falling behind of what's being done out there. So I just wanted to add that.
So we're real excited about our new IT director. And I hope they're as excited about us.
And then there was one other thing. We just got our tax notice.
No pressure.
And on our tax notice, of course, we have the amount that we're paying to the Southwest Florida Water Management District. And according to what Rachel was telling me, our city is paying about $1 million a year to SwiftMud.
City residents,
City residents.
city
About
property
900,000.
owners, yeah.
900,000.
900,000, and that does not include all of our water utility users, because we have the additional. They have their budget meeting, as we will have our budget meeting in September. Theirs is going to be September 16th at 5:01 PM in Tampa. Shall we go? Complain about our money's not, taxation without representation?
We could.
We could.
I think it should be, yeah.
Wear red shirts.
Let's think about that. I
We
mean,
can think about that, but I guess obviously I'm so frustrated.
yeah.
Anything else?
That's it for me, thank you.
Well, let's think about that.
Okay, that ends council member comments. Now citizens' comments. Please come to the podium. You dropped your wallet. You might need that.
Steve Fabian. Some meetings ago, staff put together what they called a project needs list that we would have to fund out of ad valorem taxes if we didn't get the one sales tax. And as a taxpayer, I thought, how's that going to affect me? So I did a little study, and Terry, can you put this on the demo, please? And I asked myself the question, what is better for me, getting the ad valorem tax added or the sales tax? And what I did is I looked at different assessed values and how much that added tax would be. And I'm going to pick the 300 because that's kind of the category that I would fall into. I would have to, I would get $71.30 more taxes that I would have to pay, but I would have to generate $7,130 at 1%. But then I said, how many taxable values would I have, how much taxable value would I have to spend to generate that money? And it's $49,000. I don't spend that kind of money. So what's better for me? 1% sales tax. I just thought I'd like to share that with
Yeah, I
you.
like that too. Very good.
That's awesome.
The other thing, we have a situation on 41 from Taylor down to Airport Road. There are 4 cuts through that don't have left turn lanes, and people are turning left at them. The worst one is down at Palm. This came up at the MPO, the CIC meeting, the MPO, and the last response I got was, well, there hasn't been any accidents there, so we're not going to do anything about it. I almost rear-ended somebody down there. Do we have to wait till somebody gets in an accident or somebody gets killed there before they will do? All it's going to take is 1 no left turn signs at those areas. We got to do something about it, and I hope maybe the city council can write a memo or something to DOT and say, this is a bad situation. Thank you.
Yes.
Get with me afterwards.
Pardon?
Talk with me afterwards.
Sure.
Can you bring it up at the MPO?
Ray Rose. I got 3 quickies. I'll try to make it less than 3 minutes. First of all, to Mr. Kavanaugh, thank you for your efforts to get that stupid trailer removed off of Kia Star. Number 2, since Charlie, 10 years ago, we have been working with the county to get the county sign ordinance changed for the South County to reflect us, and I think their due date is the month of September. I don't know if we have a joint meeting scheduled or not, but we ought to be pressing to find out where they stand, because they promised to have, I'm pretty sure they promised to have an ordinance ready for us at that time to be more in line with the city's ordinance for the South County. I think that's really essential. And finally, I really enjoyed all your high-tech emphasis today. It shows that you're making progress and everything else, but we have a tremendous high-tech device that already exists that you're not using when all these sign questions and building questions and permit questions come up. And what it is you call Terry Tubbs. And I'm dead serious, folks. That gal is a real asset to this community, and she does get you your answers, and they're correct and they're foolproof. Thanks, Terry.
Oh, sorry. You go ahead.
Go ahead.
I can defer. Charlie Council, citizen. Just a couple of comments or a couple of thoughts directed to the discussion and the action of the board regarding the request for a variance on the single residence. We're a nation of laws, and we're a city of codes and regulations. And I think the board went a long way to minimize with the action certain codes that I think are strictly very important. And those are the criteria, 8 I believe it is, that are required to be met in order to grant a variance. Both staff and the prior appeals action suggested that, and recommended that that request be denied. I don't see how there was due consideration on each of those requirements that had to be met in order to grant the variance. And there were very strong and convincing arguments in at least, I think, 6, perhaps 7 of those. And of course, we understand that in order to grant the variance, all must be considered. It's easy to say, okay, we're going to take future challenges on a case-by-case basis. But, you know, got to be very careful of ordinance slippage or ordinance erosion or whatever, however you want to term it. That's an important set of requirements, and in just, I think, one fell swoop, they were ignored. I understand the sympathy factor. Certainly, there's a strong case by saying, gee, what if? We know that the board was asked to grant forgiveness rather than permission, and that's a whole different area. But my personal opinion is that I think that that was a move taken too quickly, and it does create future problems, I think, for the city and for staff, and like requests. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Patty Allen, Fisherman's Village. I have a couple of points I'd like to make. There are a few large events in this community, Wine and Jazz Festival, Pirate Fest, Block Party, that draw regional attendance in annual events. I would love to be able, and I would be happy to pay for a banner, several banners across certain roads in our community that advertise these types of things, because they do draw huge amounts of people, and they also support businesses. For instance, the Pirate Fest supports a lot of businesses in Fisherman's Village, and now we're expanding into Punta Gorda, so that it supports businesses in off-season, which is very, very important. So I'm not sure if I need to take this back to the chamber, or if I can be on one of the committees to work with, I think it was Rick Keeney, to see if we can get this accomplished. I'm happy to pay for it. I'm even happy to pay for the sign going up in order to promote these types of regional businesses. Now, it wouldn't be, I wouldn't think, for every little event that we have here. It would be for those huge events and we would be able to distinguish it. So that's the first thing. Secondly, I still continue to believe very strongly that our city needs a marketing budget. And as much as I support the chamber's effort, I still think that for me, as Fisherman's Village, we're not getting the White House black market and other big box or big box businesses, because we do not have the population here in this community to support those efforts. But I think that if we continue to go after the marketing and develop those the people coming here to our community, living and expanding, I think naturally then you start to get these big box stores looking at us more closely. I do support the chamber's efforts. Any efforts made are always appreciated for all of us, but I strongly urge and continue to hope that the city has a marketing plan or money towards marketing to really market our beautiful city and all that it has to offer. I sit in that chair week after week, and I hear the wonderful comments of many people, and I think we need to continue to get our message out more regionally than we do now. So I'd like you to continue to consider that in the budget, whatever amount. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizens' comments? Seeing none, we are adjourned. 2 minutes till 12.